I was never expected. Not in the way of my parents didn't plan for me, but rather, they never wanted me in the first place. I was the result of a mistake, an accident of fate. If everything had gone according to my mother's plan, I might have never been born. But here I was, in this world, in a family where my existence was nothing more than a burden. My name is Bella, and this is my story. My mother, Melissa, is a strong and ambitious woman. To her, work always came before family. She had no time to worry about trivial things, especially an unwanted child. When she found out she was pregnant with me at 41, she initially thought it was menopause. But then reality hit. And it hit too late to be fixed. I can only imagine the moment she told my father, Richard. He must have just stood there, silent and useless, unsure of what to do. My father was never a decisive man. He had no backbone, no voice in this family. Whether he agreed or protested, it didn't matter. The outcome remained the same. I existed. But if it hadn't been for my grandfather, Walter, I probably wouldn't have remained in this family for long. He was the only one who ensured that I would be born and have a decent life. He was wealthy and lived in Canada, but when he heard the news, he flew to the US to meet my parents. I can picture him sitting down, calm yet firm, telling them, "Melissa, Richard, I know this isn't what you wanted, but this child is coming into the world, and I will not let my grandchild be abandoned. I will support you financially, but give this girl a chance." Eventually my mother agreed. But not out of love or responsibility. She accepted because of my grandfather's money. To her, I was never a daughter. I was a debt to be paid, and my grandfather was the financial backer. I was born prematurely, weak and sickly. My first days weren't spent in the warm embrace of my mother but inside an incubator in the hospital, surrounded by tubes and machines. And the only person who was always there for me wasn't my mother or my father. It was Aunt Anna. She never married, never had children, but maybe that's why she loved me more than anyone in this family ever did. While my mother was busy with work and my father had no idea what to do, Aunt Anna was there, holding my tiny hand through the incubator's openings, whispering words of encouragement. When I was finally strong enough to leave the hospital, Grandpa Walter helped once again. He bought my parents a bigger house, because my mother claimed the old one was too small for 2 children. But no matter how big the house was, I never had a place in it. I grew up in a house that felt like a museum, where everything had to be clean, quiet and untouched, and I had to act as if I didn't exist. No one wanted me around. No one wanted me to be seen. Emma, my older sister, was 13 years older than me and had already established her own life before I was even aware of my place in this family. She had no interest in me, nor any reason to. I was just an inconvenience, a nuisance my parents accidentally acquired. I remember once, when I was about 6, I watched Emma put on makeup in her room. I asked, full of admiration, "Emma, can I watch you do your makeup?" She barely glanced at me before responding flatly, "No, Bella, go play somewhere else." "But I don't want to play alone," I pleaded. She slammed her mascara down on the dresser and turned to me, eyes filled with irritation. "Listen, we are not friends, okay? I'm not here to entertain you. Go bother Mom or Dad." But my parents didn't want to be bothered either. Every day when my mother came home from work, she would pour herself a large glass of wine and sigh. "For God's sake, Bella, can't you see I need some peace and quiet? Go to your room and entertain yourself." And my father? Whenever my mother demanded that he take care of me, his favorite phrase became, "Not now, Bella." I tried. I really did. I chased after them, desperate for attention, for love. But eventually I realized a painful truth. I was nothing in this family. A child no one wanted. A ghost drifting through a house that wasn't truly mine. And so, I stopped trying. I stopped chasing after their love. I learned to become invisible, silent, unnoticed, avoiding disruption at all costs. Because I knew that no matter what I did, they would never truly love me. My first memories were never filled with warm hugs or bedtime stories. Instead, I grew up in the cold silence of a house where I had no place. I have no recollection of my mother tucking me in at night, nor do I remember my father ever lifting me onto his shoulders and making me laugh like other kids' fathers did. All I remember is emptiness. The quiet loneliness that seeped into every corner of my soul from the very beginning. My parents never abused me physically. No slaps, no screaming fights. But neglect is its own form of cruelty. They never saw me, never heard me, never cared about my existence. I could have been invisible for a week and they wouldn't have noticed. When I was little, I would run up to hug my mother's legs whenever she came home. But I quickly learned that it only annoyed her. Every time I tried, she would sigh, loosen her tie, pour herself a glass of wine, and ignore me. God, Bella, I've had a long day, can't you just leave me alone for a while? That became her nightly refrain. My father was no better. When my mother wasn't home, he would either bury himself in the TV, hide behind the newspaper, or simply leave the room whenever I entered. I was never a priority to them. But if I was invisible to my parents, to Emma, I didn't even deserve to exist. She was 13 years older than me, and when I was little, I idolized her. I wanted her to braid my hair, teach me makeup, take me places. Just like the sisters I saw at school. But Emma never wanted a little sister. I remember once, when I was 7, I walked into her room and watched as she painted her nails a bold red. Emma, can I try? I asked, eyes shining with excitement. She didn't even look at me, just sighed. No, Bella, go away. But why? I just want to learn. She turned to me, exasperated. Listen, we are not friends, okay? I am not responsible for entertaining you. Go bother Mom and Dad. But I already knew that Mom and Dad didn't want to be bothered. So, I learned. I learned to do everything on my own, to play alone, read alone, exist alone. And I learned one critical lesson. No one would be there for me. Except Aunt Anna. She was the only person in the family who truly cared. When I was sick, it wasn't my parents who worried. It was her. On holidays, when my parents were too busy to remember me, she was the one who sent a small gift. Along with a note. My dearest Bella. I'll always be here when you need me. And for a child who had no one else, those simple words kept me from drowning in loneliness. During those years, I gradually became a shadow in my own home. I didn't make noise. Didn't complain. Didn't seek love anymore. I learned to become invisible. But no matter how much I tried to disappear, there were still moments when the pain crept into my heart. Like when I turned 8. I remember waking up early, making myself a birthday cake out of cookies and milk, lighting a small candle, and quietly singing happy birthday to myself. I had hoped, just a little, that my mother or father would remember. That they would look at me and say, "Happy birthday, Bella." But the entire day passed and no one said a word, no one remembered. That evening, my mother came home after a long day at the office. I gathered all my courage to remind her. "Mom, today is my birthday." She frowned, as if I had mentioned something insignificant. "Oh, really? I was too busy and forgot. Happy birthday." She said it while pouring herself a glass of wine, never looking at me again. That night, I curled up under my blanket and whispered to myself. It's okay, I don't need them, I'll be fine. But even as I told myself that, I knew I was lying. I wasn't fine, and maybe I would never be fine as long as I was in that house. I never expected an extravagant birthday party or expensive gifts. But I also never thought that my 15th birthday would be the day I lost everything, including the roof over my head. That day started like any other. I woke up in my small room. Dim light seeping through the curtains. There were no birthday wishes from my mother, no wrapped presents from my father. I had long been used to it. But even though I told myself not to expect anything, I couldn't stop the ache in my chest. I told myself it was okay. Aunt Anna would definitely remember. And sure enough, in the morning, she called me, her voice full of excitement. "Happy birthday, Bella, I have a surprise for you, come over this afternoon, okay?" I smiled, warmth spreading through me. Aunt Anna was the only person who ever made me feel loved. But I didn't know that, while I eagerly waited for the afternoon to come, everything at home had already changed. Forever. That afternoon I returned home from school, excited about the gift Aunt Anna had prepared. I stepped onto the front porch, my hand on the doorknob. But something felt off. The house was quieter than usual. There was no sound of the TV in the living room, no chatter from my mother on the phone. As I pushed open the door, a sense of unease washed over me. Everything in the house looked the same, yet there was something different. A baby stroller stood near the staircase. I frowned. I walked upstairs, heading toward my room out of habit. But when I reached for the doorknob, I froze. My door was closed. I never closed my door. A chill ran down my spine. I took a deep breath, turned the knob, and pushed the door open. The room was no longer mine. The soft lavender walls I once loved had been repainted a pale blue. My bed was gone, replaced by a pristine white crib. My belongings had vanished, replaced by stuffed animals and baby toys. I stepped back, feeling as if someone had punched me in the chest. This was my room. "What the hell is going on?" I whispered, my voice shaky. At that moment I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around and saw my parents standing at the doorway. "Bella?" My mother spoke first, her voice hesitant. "Where is my room?" I asked, my throat tightening. My father cleared his throat, avoiding my eyes. My mother, however, forced a smile. "Oh, we thought you should know, Emma is having a baby and she and her husband are moving in. We need space for the baby." I blinked, trying to process her words. "You mean, you took my room for Emma's baby?" I asked, my voice starting to tremble. My mother nodded as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "That's right, we needed the space, I know you'll understand, Bella." "Then where am I supposed to sleep?" I asked, clinging to a desperate hope that they had arranged something for me. My father crossed his arms, still not looking at me. "Well, about that. We think it would be best if you moved in with Aunt Anna." It felt like my heart had plummeted into an abyss. "Move out? But this is my home." My mother sighed, her tone shifting to annoyance. "Bella, you've lived here for 15 years. But now, our family has someone more important to consider. Your father and I agreed that it's best for you to live with Aunt Anna. You like being there anyway, don't you?" I stared at them, waiting for some sign that this was just a cruel joke. But their cold, indifferent expression said it all. They were really kicking me out. "So?" I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. "Where are my things?" My father pointed downstairs. "It's downstairs, we've already packed it for you." Everything around me felt like it was shattering. On my 15th birthday, I came home only to realize that I was no longer part of this family. A surge of anger rose in my chest. "Mom, do you know what today is?" I asked, clenching my fists. My mother blinked, looking confused. "What? Today is my birthday." I let out a bitter, painful laugh. "And this is your gift to me? Throwing me out of the house?" My mother sighed, exasperated. "Aunt Davidson. Don't be so dramatic, Bella. We're just doing what's best for the family. Now, take your things and go. Aunt Anna is waiting for you." My father stepped forward and placed my suitcase at my feet, as if this was the final punctuation mark on my existence in this house. I stood there, staring at them, feeling a coldness I had never known before. They never truly loved me. And now, they didn't even bother hiding it. I bent down, picked up my suitcase and turned away, stepping out the door. As it slammed shut behind me, I knew I would never return. I walked down the road toward Aunt Anna's house, dragging my suitcase behind me. The cold wind stung my skin, but it was nothing compared to the chill inside me. They had really kicked me out. It wasn't a misunderstanding, it wasn't a moment of anger, it was a deliberate decision. When I arrived at Aunt Anna's house, she was already waiting at the door, worry etched across her face. But the moment she saw me, my red, swollen eyes, the suitcase in my hand? That worry turned into fury. Bella, what happened? I bit my lip, trying to hold it together. But the moment she pulled me into her arms, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I broke down. Aunt Anna didn't need to ask anything else. She led me inside, handed me a warm cup of tea, and simply said, "You never have to go back there again." A few days later, I received a call from Grandpa Walter. He had heard everything from Aunt Anna and wanted to see me. When I arrived at his house, he was standing there, his eyes filled with disappointment. But not disappointment in me, disappointment in my parents. "They really did that?" he sighed, shaking his head. "Unbelievable." After a long silence, he slid a gift box across the table toward me. "I know this can't make up for everything you've been through. But happy birthday, Bella." I opened the box, my heart pounding as I saw a brand new phone. The latest model. I had never owned anything this valuable before. "Thank you," I mumbled, unsure of what else to say. "I want you to use it to stay in touch with Aunt Anna and me," he said, his gaze warm and serious. "And if anything ever happens, call me immediately, okay?" I nodded, gripping the phone tightly, not knowing that this device would soon become the most important tool in my life. Emma never considered me part of the family, so it was no surprise that I wasn't invited to her wedding. But Aunt Anna was. Whether they liked it or not, she was still family. And when she received an invitation, she decided to go. And I went with her. As I stepped into the grand banquet hall, I felt like an outsider. Around me were fake smiles, glamorous dresses, and a family that I no longer belonged to. Then, I saw my parents. My mother was beaming, her arm looped through my father's. Both of them looked proud and happy. Like the perfect, loving parents. Rage bubbled up inside me. They had kicked me out a week ago. And now they stood here, pretending to be the ideal family? I pulled out my phone, at first intending to take a picture of them, a reminder of who they really were. But then, an idea struck me. Live stream. I opened the camera, pressed the live button, and whispered, "Hi, Grandpa." I sent him the link. His voice came through immediately. "I see you, Bella." His tone was calm, but there was something unreadable in it. I continued filming, capturing my parents laughing and chatting, completely unaware that someone who could change everything was watching. After the dinner, when the speeches began, Grandpa Walter suddenly stood up. No one expected it. I watched him, my heart pounding. "Excuse me for interrupting, but I have something very important to say." The room fell silent, all eyes turned to him. He stepped forward, slowly looking around before turning to my parents. His voice was deep, steady, and filled with authority. "I saw everything." My mother frowned. "Dad, what are you talking about?" Grandpa Walter let out a dry chuckle. "I saw how you treated Bella." He pulled out his phone and held it up. "I saw everything, as it happened." Whispers spread through the crowd. "Walter, this isn't the time for—" my father started, his voice uneasy. "Be quiet," Grandpa cut him off sharply. "I've been silent for too long, but today in front of everyone here, I want to make something clear. I am cutting both of you out of my will." The room froze. My mother turned pale. "Dad, you can't do that," she shrieked. "Oh, but I can," Grandpa said slowly. "And I already have. Every last cent of my estate, everything, will go to Bella and Aunt Anna. The two of you and Emma will get nothing." Gasps filled the room. Then, Emma started sobbing. "No, you can't do this to me," she cried, mascara streaking down her face. My father looked furious, my mother horrified, but none of them could do a thing. Grandpa turned to me, his voice softening. "Come on, Bella, we don't need to stay where we aren't wanted." I stood up, feeling the weight of 100 stares. But I didn't care. I followed Grandpa and Aunt Anna toward the exit, knowing that I was finally free. The silence weighed heavily on the room. Then Emma burst into tears. "No, Dad, you can't do this to me," she screamed. mascara streaking down her perfect face. My father was furious, my mother panicked, but I just sat there watching everything unfold before me, feeling like, for the first time in my life, justice was finally being served. Grandpa turned to me, his voice gentler. "Let's go, Bella." I stood up, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes on me, but I didn't care. I walked away, following Grandpa and Aunt Anna, knowing that I was no longer trapped in this family. I never went back home after the wedding. There was no reason to, I was no longer a part of that family. But my parents refused to accept that. 2 days later, while I was sitting at Aunt Anna's kitchen table, trying to focus on my homework but still overwhelmed by everything that had happened, a knock echoed at the door. Aunt Anna stood up to answer it, and immediately my mother's voice rang out. "Bella, sweetheart, I came to talk to you." I froze in place. Aunt Anna stood firmly in the doorway, her voice cold as ice. "What are you two doing here?" My father was there too, standing behind my mother, looking annoyed, but trying to appear composed. "We just want to see our daughter," he said, his voice forced into something resembling warmth. I walked to the door, crossed my arms and stared straight at them. "See your daughter?" I scoffed. "You threw me out, remember?" My mother's expression immediately shifted. Her eyes filled with a fake look of remorse. "Bella, I'm sorry. I know I didn't handle things well that day. But you have to understand. Your father and I only wanted what was best for the family. We can start over, right?" I stared at her, feeling a mixture of anger and disgust. "Start over," I repeated. "After you kicked me out on my birthday?" My father clicked his tongue, losing patience. "Come on, Bella. Don't blow this out of proportion. You have a place with Aunt Anna now, don't you?" I narrowed my eyes. "So what do you really want?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. As expected, my mother's gaze immediately dropped, as if searching for the right words. Finally, she sighed, her voice suddenly unnaturally soft. "It's just... we heard from Grandpa Walter's lawyer." I said nothing, waiting. My mother glanced at my father, silently pushing him to continue. He cleared his throat and bluntly stated, "He really did cut us out of the will." Everything became crystal clear. "And now you suddenly remember you have a daughter?" I asked, my voice cold. My mother quickly shook her head, forcing an awkward laugh. "It's not like that, sweetheart." "Don't call me that," I cut her off. Her eyes flashed with irritation, but she forced herself to stay calm. "It's just," she adjusted her tone again. "Grandpa is getting old. He could change his mind at any time. If you come back home, if we reunite as a family, maybe he'll reconsider." I laughed. A bitter, hollow laugh. "You don't want me back. You want the money." My mother opened her mouth to protest, but I raised my hand to stop her. "Don't bother pretending. I know you never loved me, and now, I don't need you anymore either." My father's patience finally snapped. "Bella, stop being so stubborn. We're still your family." Aunt Anna, who had been standing quietly until now, finally spoke, her voice sharp. "Family?" she scoffed. "What kind of family throws their child out on their birthday?" My parents stiffened. My mother clenched her purse tightly, her face twisting in anger. "Fine," she hissed, her voice like a blade. "If you want to cut ties with your family, then just wait and see. I won't let this go." She spun around and stormed off, dragging my father with her. I slammed the doors shut. But they didn't stop there. After that day, my parents bombarded me with emails, text messages, and even tried to use other relatives to pressure me into going back. But I saw right through them. I knew what I had to do to end this once and for all. I turned to Aunt Anna. "Auntie, I want you to become my legal guardian." Aunt Anna's eyes widened in surprise. "Are you sure, Bella?" I nodded. "I never want to go back to them." Aunt Anna was silent for a moment, then nodded firmly. "All right, we'll do this the legal way." We contacted a lawyer, and the process began. The most crucial piece of evidence was the live stream video from the wedding. When the lawyer submitted the video to the court, everything became undeniably clear. There was no way my parents could deny what they had done. The trial took place soon after. I sat beside Aunt Anna while my parents desperately tried to play the role of loving parents. But when the video was played before the judge, I watched as their faces turned pale. The judge stared at the screen, listening to every word they had spoken that day. Every cold, cruel remark, every heartless action, as they threw me out of the house. Finally, when the video ended, the judge set their pen down and said firmly, "I have rarely seen a case as clear as this." After a brief discussion, the ruling was announced. Aunt Anna was granted full legal guardianship of me. My parents lost all custody rights. I held my breath as the judge's gavel struck the desk. I was free. For the first time, I could truly smile with joy. After the trial, it was finally over. I was no longer tied to my parents, no more harassment, no more manipulative calls or bitter emails. I was free. As we left the courthouse, Aunt Anna pulled me into a tight hug and whispered in my ear, "Let's go home, Bella." I looked at her, feeling a warmth I had never known before. Home had never been a real place for me. But now, with Aunt Anna, it could finally be a place where I belonged. About a week later, Grandpa Walter called me. "Bella, I need you to come to the lawyer's office with me." I had a feeling something important was happening, but I didn't ask questions. When I arrived, Grandpa Walter was already seated, his expression calm but resolute. In front of him was a thick stack of documents. He looked at me for a moment, then spoke gently. "I've thought long and hard about this, and I don't want to wait any longer." He slid the paperwork toward me. "This is my new will." My eyes widened. "What do you mean?" He smiled. "I have officially changed my will. Everything I own, all of it, will go to you and Aunt Anna. Your parents and Emma will not receive a single cent." I was stunned. I had heard him declare this at Emma's wedding, but I never thought he would act on it so quickly. "Are you sure?" I asked, still in disbelief. Grandpa Walter nodded, his gaze unwavering. "You deserve a real chance to build your future. You shouldn't have to suffer because of your parents' selfishness." I bit my lip, trying to contain my emotions. "Thank you, truly," I whispered. Grandpa took my hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "You don't have to thank me, Bella. Just be happy." I didn't need to tell my former family about this decision, they would find out soon enough. And sure enough, just a few days later, Emma called me. My phone rang repeatedly, and when I saw her name flashing on the screen, I almost ignored it. But then I thought, maybe I should listen, just once, to see what she had to say. I answered, "Bella, what the hell did you do?" I pulled the phone away from my ear as her angry scream erupted. "What are you talking about?" I asked, though I already knew. "Don't play dumb." Her voice was filled with rage. "You made Grandpa change his will. You ruined everything. Do you have any idea how much I was counting on that money?" I raised an eyebrow. "Did you really think Grandpa was going to keep supporting you and our parents after everything they did to me?" I asked, my voice laced with sarcasm. "This isn't my fault," Emma shrieked. "It was Mom and Dad who treated you badly, not me, and now I have to suffer for it too? You're so selfish, Bella." I let out a dry, humorless laugh. "You're calling me selfish?" I asked. "I was the one thrown out of the house on my birthday, remember? I was the one treated like I didn't exist my entire life, and now, when Grandpa finally stands by my side, you're screaming at me like I'm the one who ruined your life?" Emma was silent for a moment. But then, she continued. "You're just getting revenge, aren't you? You've always been jealous of me. You've been waiting for the chance to destroy me, haven't you?" I sighed. "I don't want to waste any more time on this pointless conversation. If you really think I manipulated Grandpa just to hurt you, then you have bigger issues than I thought." And then, I hung up. It was the last time I ever heard Emma's voice. My life finally felt peaceful. No more calls from my parents. No more bitter words from Emma. I focused on my studies, and with Aunt Anna and Grandpa Walter's support, I could seriously plan for my future. I applied to college, researched scholarships, and for the first time in my life, I could look ahead without fear. On weekends, Aunt Anna and I cooked together, took walks in the park, or simply sat in comfortable silence, enjoying a peace I had never known in my old home. Grandpa Walter visited often. He told me stories about his youth, lessons he wanted me to remember, and whenever I doubted myself, he would place a hand on my shoulder and say, "You've been through so much, Bella. But you're still standing. You can do anything you set your mind to." And I believed him. I was no longer the abandoned girl. I was no longer the invisible child in my own family. I had a real family, Aunt Anna and Grandpa Walter. And no matter how painful my past had been, I knew one thing for certain. I would never let anyone manipulate or diminish me again. I had found my freedom, and I was going to live the life I deserved. Bella's story is a clear reminder that family isn't just where we are born, it's where we are truly loved and valued. She was abandoned by those who were supposed to care for her, but instead of letting that break her, she fought for her freedom and built her future. Her story reflects a harsh reality: not everyone is lucky enough to have a loving family. But it also brings hope. That we have the power to choose our own family, to find the people who truly care for and respect us. What are your thoughts on Bella's journey? Have you ever experienced or witnessed something similar? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow this channel for more powerful, real-life stories about family and resilience.